stars in the southern sky, southward as you go. There is moonlight and moss in the trees, down the seven bridges road. All right, that's it. Little intro. Excuse me one sec. Hi, my name is Ron. Welcome to the ULAX podcast, episode 5. Oh, folks, it's been a hell of a journey. I've been trying to tape this for 2 days. I had major computer problems. I think I figured it out late last night. We're at the limit here. Today is July 31st. I wanted to do this on the 29th. But technology didn't want to cooperate with me, so here I am. From the get-go, let me just tell you that this particular topic is quite important to me, and that's probably the topic that led me to starting my own podcast. If you remember in episode 1, I was mentioning that I was fortunate enough to go as a guest at a popular podcast here in the province of Quebec, and in the city of Quebec, might I add. And that's what interested me into doing the podcast. And this particular topic, the Eagles, which is the topic of the day, is one that I covered on that particular podcast. By the way, the podcast is Radio Pirate. It's in French, so you guys wouldn't know it. It's with Jeff Fillion, and you wouldn't know that either, unless you're bilingual and you're watching both. But 2 years ago, in June 2022, I did maybe 30 minutes or so of talking with Jeff about the Eagles, and it was a lot of fun. Probably the podcast that I had the most fun doing. And I was a bit frustrated when we ended because I would have went on, And that's when I decided, okay, that's it. I'm going to start my own podcast. So 2 years later I did, but fact is that I did. So the ULAX podcast usually covers topics that have something to do with Los Angeles and hopefully or Montreal. This particular topic obviously connects well with Los Angeles because the Eagles are a band that formed in Los Angeles, and they consider themselves as an LA band, defining most probably now what we know as the LA sound, at least back in the 70s. And they did come to Montreal occasionally, so well, there you go. They cover both ends of the ULAX concept. First thing I want to tell you, though, is that I'm not an expert on the matter. I only discovered really more in depth the Eagles only 8 years ago. So they've been around since 71, and I'm a bit late to the party. Unfortunately, I came about them or knowing them more once Glenn Frey died on January 18th, 2016. And the day he died, or the day it was announced, my daughter, who lives in LA, sent us on the family chat group, whatever you call it, another legend, a rock legend dies, Glenn Frey. And I had no idea who Glenn Frey was. I'm sorry. My bad. I do now know, but in 2016, I didn't know the name. So she replied, well, he's the leader of the Eagles. You should know this, Dad. You're the classic rock kind of guy, and I am. And obviously the Eagles were part of my musical landscape most of my life. My sister had the Hotel California album, and she would play it repeatedly in 76, 77, whenever it came out. And so I knew most of the songs, at least of that album. And I knew Don Henley as a solo artist, of course, and as what I thought was the leader of the Eagles. And that's debatable. Some people are thinking that Don is the leader. In my opinion, Glenn was the leader. And I'll try to explain that in my findings. So most of these findings that I will refer to were found on Wikipedia. And this website, if you don't know it, it's kind of cool. It's setlist, in one word, set, S-E-T-L-I-S-T, .fm. So it's a website that accumulates all kinds of data regarding tours, bands, and whatnot. So if you remember, I saw this concert in '83 at this venue, this band, you might look it up and you'll have the set list of that particular band or concert. And in terms of the Eagles, well, most of their concerts are in there. So you see the cities they were in, the dates, the arena or the venue. You see a lot of details. So I found out a lot of important information there. And since 2016, I've been paying attention to whatever is published regarding the Eagles on the YouTube. So obviously, I don't pretend to know anything, and I won't cover what was covered in History of the Eagles, that documentary. So going back to when Glenn died, my daughter shares the news, and the very next day, Jeff Fillion on Radio Pirate did, I think, a 90-minute segment on the Eagles, and he's the one who really sparked my curiosity about the band, and he was referring to this documentary called History of the Eagles. And in that, at that time, that was streaming on Netflix. It's very good. It's over 3 hours, but I mean, if you're interested, you can go through it like this. And anyways, I did that same day, and that's when the light went on the Eagles. All I wanted to do after watching that documentary was to play Take It Easy. And I would play it for you, but I can't because of copyrights and the fact that Don Henley and the Eagles, I think, they're very protective of their material and what people put on YouTube. And I don't want to be shut down. It's not that I'm monetizing the website. As you know, this is more or less a hobby for me, so it's not a source of income. And so I won't chance it. I won't play it. The little segment that I played of the song Seven Bridges Road, it's a song that the Eagles covers. It's not one of their songs. The guy that wrote it is Stephen Young. And they've been using that song a lot in most of their concert, and it's usually the first song of the show or the first song of the second set. If they like when they recently did the Hotel California tour, they would play the Hotel California album from top to bottom in the first set. Second set, they would start with Seven Bridges Road. So it's a good song for them to gauge their voices, I guess, and sing in harmony, because the part that I sang with my guitar is actually sung a cappella, with the five voices coming together. It's a nice piece. And so I figured I'd play that. I should be safe in regards to copyright. Stephen Young is dead, and I don't think Don Henley will give me grief for using 20 seconds of this song. Okay, so I watched a documentary. I want to play Take It Easy, and I start paying attention to what is happening after Glenn's death. And only a few weeks later, the Eagles were asked to perform at the Grammys ceremony that year as a tribute to Glenn Frey. So they accepted, but it was less than a month after his death. And they sang Take It Easy, which makes sense because it's a signature song, and it was Glenn Frey that was singing lead on that particular track. So they brought in Jackson Browne to sing lead of that particular song that night, which makes sense because Jackson Browne wrote most of that song. And you'll learn in the documentary that he was stuck in the second verse and Glenn was offering to help. And Jackson was, I can do this. I'll get it done. And Glenn would come back. Are you done? Can I help? And no, I'm good. Eventually, Jackson did ask for help, and Glenn Frey came up with that line that I'll let you discover that in the documentary, or there's segments on it on YouTube if you don't want to go through 3 hours of material just to find out that line. But it was a good idea to bring in Jackson Browne, obviously. They also brought in Bernie Leadon, who was one of the 4 original Eagles. And the only one missing, well, other than Glenn, clearly, but there's Randy Meisner, who wasn't there, but I think he had health issues or something. He was considered or invited or whatnot, but didn't happen. So they performed that one song. They didn't speak or anything, and the performance was, at par with the level of quality that the Eagles deliver. They're professionals. The show must go on. They did what they had to do. And the thing is, it was sad to see because you could see or feel the grief. It was heavy. You could feel the pain. They weren't, I'm assuming they didn't realize what it might do to them personally when they played that song. And I can only imagine that the first strum of that guitar at the beginning of Take It Easy, they must have, in their minds anyway, they must have, what the hell are we doing? How can we be doing this without Glenn? It clearly was difficult for them, and you could see that. And I can't find trace of that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I wanted to see it again. Just to see if I remembered correctly what I just said, because I'm talking off memory of 8 years ago here, but that was my observation, and it stuck with me, but I could never find that segment again, and I'm assuming it's because Don Henley had it removed or something, or maybe you can find Grammys 2016, the whole show, and somewhere in there you could see that particular performance, but I don't know. If you wanted to look it up, you can, but I didn't find it. So with Bernie Leadon in that formation that night, and Jackson Browne, the rumor mill started, and the people were speculating and saying, well, the Eagles are going to start again. They're going to revamp and start with Jackson Browne and Bernie Leadon or whatever. And Don Henley said, no, this is not happening. The Eagles are done. We've lost our brother, our partner, our leader. We cannot go on as the Eagles without Glenn. End of story. Besides, Jackson Browne has his own things, and speaking of Don, he was going on tour to promote his new album that was just released at the end of 2015 called Cass County. So I go, ooh, wait a second. Don is going on tour? Is he coming to Montreal? Are there tickets? Are they affordable? Well, he was coming to Montreal. I found tickets and I could afford them, so I did go. I never saw the Eagles, and I probably will never see the Eagles. But I did see Don Henley on his solo tour, and obviously he played a lot of his solo classics. But he played a lot of Eagles materials as well. Obviously, he was playing songs that he sings for the Eagles. And part of his encore was Hotel California. And it was mind-boggling to see people get up and leave at the beginning of Hotel California. I'm not talking one or two people. I'm talking like the vast majority was leaving during Hotel California. I couldn't believe it. I found it so disrespectful. And the only explanation I could find is that maybe these people came for the solo material of Don Henley. Maybe they don't like the Eagles. Maybe they're sick of hearing Hotel California, because that is clearly the song that is played over and over on any classic rock station. And at times myself, I need to take a break from it. But to see it live, I guess you sit down and watch the man sing. For God damn it. So anyways, I was furious. I'm the kind of guy that walks into a bar, and if there's a guy performing, sing, with his guitar and whatnot, I sit down, have a beer, and watch the whole set. If I don't watch the whole evening, but I certainly won't leave during a set. It's disrespectful. So if you did that, I don't know, if somebody sees that, or any show, unless it's terrible and you want to protest and leave the show because it's not good, that's another story. But I find it very disrespectful. Anyways, a little sidetrack on Don Henley's performance in Montreal, September 2016. A few months later, the Eagles were honored at this event called Kennedy Center Honors. Every December they do that. It's an event where the president at the time will introduce different people or honor them. Music, cinema, poetry, literature, art, whatever. And the Eagles were supposed to be honored in December 2015, but Glenn was sick. And he was just sick. He wasn't dying. He wasn't expected to die, but so they just asked if they could postpone for a year because they wanted Glenn to be there. And then, well, Glenn left for good, and so the following December 2016, accepting the honor was Timothy B. Schmidt, Joe Walsh, Don Henley, and Glenn Frey's wife. So that was that. It's pretty good. That you can find on YouTube. So just go Kennedy Center Honors Eagles. You'll find it. It's about 20 minutes long. They don't perform. It's people covering some of their songs and talking about them. It's Barack Obama, who was the president at the time, so he did a nice little speech about the Eagles. It was good. It's worth seeing. So if you're a fan and you didn't know about this, you can certainly look it up. Okay, so where are we? We are at the end of 2016. And just prior to the Kennedy Center, when I was talking about Don Henley's solo tour, during that tour, he was, I don't know, I'm not sure that, I'm thinking it was in Montreal that this journalist asked the question, but I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. But during that tour, around that time, September 2016, he was asked again, is there any chance that the Eagles come back? We know you said no, and we understand, but now it's been 8-9 months. Things have settled down. Any chance? And Don Henley said, no, it's we can't do this. We can't do it without Glenn. The Eagles are done. We had a good run. We're happy with what we achieved. But that's it. And besides, it wouldn't be feasible to do it without Glenn. The only thing that could work maybe is if Deacon Frey, Glenn's son, would step in and join the band, and then maybe, but I don't see that happening. Well, that's all that was needed for the rumor mill to start again. Oh, the Eagles will come back with Glenn's son, Deacon Frey, blah, 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 blah. So again, Don Henley had to put a stop to all those rumors and say, no. I just said that spur of the moment because I was thinking of when Deacon performed at his dad's funeral or memorial. He sang Peaceful, Easy Feeling. He did a good job. Don found him to be very composed and calm, good voice, great guitar. The kid impressed Don Henley, so he was just referring to that, regretting he had said that because it's, we never had the conversation. It's not going to happen, folks. Just move on. We're not going to do it. Well, we all know that's not what happened because that Eagles are still touring. But so it took this event called the Classic East and Classic West. It's like a festival. It's on the 2-day thing. It was one weekend in mid-July 2017 and another weekend at the end of July. So the Classic West was the first one. They played the Dodger Stadium, and it was packed, and it was with Glenn's son, Deacon, and Vince Gill. So that was an interesting surprise, and I'll talk more about that later. But they played, they started with Seven Bridges Road, the song that I played at the intro of this podcast. And right away, right after that song, I think it's Joe Walsh that introduced Deacon's son, not Deacon's son, but Deacon Frey, Glenn's son. And right away they played Take It Easy, and the kid hit it out of the ballpark, right? It's Dodger Stadium, and he had the Dodgers jersey, the haircut that Glenn had in the 70s, the sunglasses on the head. Yeah, he had a good look. It looked, rapidly, oh, wait a second, is this Glenn? They don't look that much alike, and they don't sound that much alike either, but enough, so that it helps sell the concept. And now the critics are unanimous, he was great, and the band will continue, everybody's happy. Then 2 weeks later, they did the Classic East in New York, where the Mets play, and same thing, same set list. Only difference, I think, is that in L.A., Bob Seger sang Heartache Tonight, which is a co-write with him and Glenn. And I don't think he was in the New York venue. And so, yeah, those two concerts were with other bands, right? It's like there was Fleetwood Mac, Doobie Brothers, Steely Dan, Journey, Eagles, and I'm missing one. There was 6 of them. So that only happened those 2 times. And by the way, July 29th, when they did the one in New York, that was 2 years to the date. The last time that Glenn Frey performed with the Eagles was on July 29th, 2015. At the end of History of the Eagles tour. Because after the movie, the movie actually sold at the box office. They made money. It was quite popular. And Glenn, who was the executive producer, by the way, so I'm thinking he is the leader. And he said, well, wait a second here. The people want this material. So they brought in Bernie Ledden, and they went on tour for about 2 years, History of the Eagles, and they came to Montreal. The last time they came to Montreal was for that tour. Let me see here. I had it. I think it's November 4th. November 4th, 2013. And that's the show that I should have went to. Well, I didn't know because I wasn't in love with the Eagles yet. But if I could go back in time, find the DeLorean, go back to 2013, that show on November 4th, I'd like to be there, mostly for this one particular song that I really, really love is Doolin Dalton. So that's a very, very good song. Nice acoustic guitar, harmonica at the beginning, and it's the lead vocals are shared between Don and Glenn. Anyways, it's a very, very good song. It's off the Desperado album. And I wish I could have seen that, but I unfortunately didn't. Okay, so back to 2017, they did that event, the Classic East, Classic West, and then a few months later, they started this tour called An Evening with the Eagles. So they did that for they did that for a few years with Deacon Frey and Vince Gill. And Vince Gill turned out to be quite an addition to the band because the guy can sing, and he could sing at a higher register than Deacon, and he can play guitar like anybody. He could certainly lead guitar, and he has. And it turned out to be a good fit with the band, and because of his a higher voice, he could sing songs that Deacon could. Well, this is speculation, right? Deacon took most of his father's songs, so he would sing "Take It Easy," "Peaceful Easy Feeling," "Already Gone," and a few more I forget. But it's Vince Gill that would sing "A New Kid in Town" and "Take It to the Limit." Well, "Take It to the Minute" was originally recorded with Randy Meisner, and one would think that Timothy B. Schmidt could sing that. I don't know if he ever did, but in this 2004 tour called Farewell Tour 1. This is in 2004, folks. This was taped in Melbourne, Australia, and that's 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, they started a farewell tour, but they were laughing about it. At the beginning of this show, you can see Glenn and Joe saying, "Welcome to the Farewell Tour 1." And they insist on the 1 because they knew it was going to go on and on and on and repeat. And, and anyways, I found it very funny. But in that particular the DVD or Blu-ray, you see little interviews with Glenn and whatnot. And I think it's in there that I saw Glenn Frey mentioning that he really liked that song, "Take It to the Limit," and they took it out of the set list for a long time, and he wanted it back, and so he was singing it from that point. And now it's Vince Gill, and he does a great job. And you can see that on a DVD or Blu-ray called Eagles at the Forum 2018. So it was taped in Los Angeles, and it is with Deacon and Vince Gill. So after that tour, they did a Hotel California tour, and they were singing or playing the whole album from top to bottom in the first set. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the second set was other classic hits from the Eagles, starting with Seven Bridges Road and Take It Easy and this and that. But at the beginning of that tour, Deacon Frey disappeared. He was gone, and nobody really knew why. Then the Eagles made a statement on their website saying that Deacon had left the band and he's welcome to come back anytime. So then all the songs that he was singing were picked up by Vince Gill, and I think Timothy B. Schmidt was singing "Peaceful Easy Feeling." And that worked for a while. And at the end of that tour, Deacon came back. He came back for not the whole show, but at different shows, at different venues. At the end of that particular tour, he was coming back in the encore to do "Take It Easy" and "Already Gone," I think, 2 songs, maybe 3 some nights. And that was it. He wasn't part of the band per se. And then not too long ago, they launched their The Long Goodbye final tour. So they launched that in 2023. And they just ended a segment of that tour in June of this year, 2024. I think the last date was June 15th. And now, get this, folks, they announced a residency in Las Vegas. They will be at Sphere as of September for 5 months, not for every day of the month. They're doing 2 weekends per month. So they do a Friday, Saturday in September. Actually, they do that twice. They do that in October, November, December. They just added January. I assume they will add on months like this for as long as there is demand. And I think the demand is high. The tickets are selling well and they're not cheap. So I still think I'll never get to see them. And actually, I will be in Vegas for business 2 weeks before that Sphere first night. And there's no way I can stretch the trip for 2 weeks or afford to anyways. But it'd be kind of nice if I win a lottery or something. Maybe I will, but I don't buy tickets. So it's going to be very hard for me to win tickets to win the lottery. So there you have it, folks. That's what's been happening with the Eagles since 2016. So let's call it History of the Eagles Part 3. Because in the movie or documentary, it's 2 parts, right? You have part 1 that covers 1971 to 1980 when they broke up. I keep looking at myself. I should be looking at the camera. I'm sorry. I'm not too good at this. I'm still learning. And part 2 is from 1994 when they reunited for the Hell Freezes Over tour and their big comeback. And they've been playing ever since. At the beginning of the comeback, Don Felder was still with the band. And by the time they reached the History of the Eagles tour, he was terminated. He was fired. And you can learn that in the documentary as well. So I guess I covered, we're about 32 minutes in, and I had to accelerate this and cut some parts because I was trying to do this before within 30 minutes because I did an hour and 6 minutes of the first podcast, the English version that I'm doing now, on 2 nights ago, and then my computer completely crashed and I couldn't recuperate it, but somehow it stayed there hidden in the computer. And then I tried again yesterday, and after half an hour it would shut down again, and I took several takes. Everything was lost, so I don't like to do it over because I want to do, the one piece, one take type of podcasts. Unfortunately, I had practice on this one. So if you didn't like it, imagine the practice runs. But obviously, I found a lot more to talk about because I did it for an hour, and now I'm done with 30 minutes. I think I forgot something, but anyways, it is what it is. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you do go to Sphere in Las Vegas to see them, keep in mind this: they always do 2 nights in a row, and then 2 nights in a row. So if you go and you have a choice between the first and second night of any given date, go on the first night. Don't go on the second night. Oh, here's what I wanted to talk to you about. The reason why I'm saying this is that the second night, they won't be able to, especially Don Henley, he sings high and he sings a lot of those songs. They might not be able to perform as well on the second night that they would on the first night. And there's a lot of controversy right now that I found on YouTube. Haters will hate. And so there's a lot of guys out there saying that Don Henley is lip syncing. I don't believe that, and I'll explain to you why. First of all, this is a very proud man. He has an ego, and he's proud of his voice. He takes care of himself, takes care of his voice. I saw many interviews when he talks about what he does before a tour. A month before the first night, he stops all alcohol. It dries up his vocal cords, so he doesn't drink a month prior to the tour. And the duration of the tour. So that takes a lot of discipline. He eats well. He exercises. The man just turned 77, by the way, last week. So obviously he doesn't have the capacity that he had before. And I get that. He's human. And he prefers, I think, this is again my opinion, I think he prefers doing a solo tour now than the Eagles, but he appreciates the fact that singing with the Eagles allow him to rest between songs because he doesn't sing every song. When he's on a solo tour, he sings every song or just about, right? So it takes a lot of a voice to do so. I can't do. I'm only 62, but even at 50, I would play and jam with my nephew Sean, and after 3-4 songs, my voice is and I don't have a good voice to start with, but still, I can understand how you can sing and then suddenly can't within an hour. So imagine these guys singing all these songs at a very high register, although they tune it down a bit. Yeah, it's half a tone or full tone lower, and everybody does that, by the way. And that's not cheating, I think, in my opinion anyways. But for him to use a track and have that, and he would sing or mimic, I don't see that happening. So here's my theory. This guy is aging, and he's proud, and he doesn't want to disappoint. So is there a tape there in the background as a support in case he can't hit one note in a song one particular night? I could buy that, and I would understand that, and that's fair. What do? You have this concert. It was announced 6 months ago, and it's tonight. And these people came from all over to assist to your concert. They paid good money. Everybody's excited. And you have a little sore throat that night because you caught a little virus. So what do? You cancel the show, send everybody home, refund them, and hopefully come back to that particular city, but maybe not because tours are, prepared months and months ahead of time. So will they come back to, I don't know, Toronto, Ontario? That's the only place in Canada that they've been ever since the comeback of 2017, if you will. So if they miss the one night in Toronto, will they come back? Probably not. They can't fit it in a tour. Or do you go with a little technical assistance to get you out of that jam and not disappoint your fans? So if that's what Don does, I forgive him. Not that he's waiting for my forgiveness, but I find that fair and understandable. And if you're an Eagles lover, wouldn't you prefer them to do that once in a while rather than, they stop, they quit, and you don't see them ever again? Which could happen and will happen. The other thing, in terms of these guys are aging, and I was mentioning how Vince Gill was a great addition, is that I noticed in some of the YouTube videos that I see, every time they play somewhere, I follow the tour on their website, and I know that this particular date they're going to be in whatever city. So then the same night or the next night, I go on YouTube and try to find if people sent a little video, and the sound is already shitty. I get that, but at least you have a sense of who was there. I saw like J.D. Souther joining the band on some of the dates of the tour because he co-wrote a lot of songs with the Eagles. I think Jackson Browne was there once or twice. So you find that out by checking YouTube. But what I notice is that not only does Vince Gill sing these songs that I was telling you about, but he picks up some of the guitar leads that Joe Walsh used to do. For instance, in Take It Easy, in the middle of the song between verses 2 and 3, there's a little solo, and it's not very hard. So I can't do it, but I mean, it doesn't require a lot of dexterity, as from what I can see. And Joe used to do that, and now Vince Gill is doing it. Why? Is it because Joe can't? Or they're playing it safe because Joe cannot do it constantly every night? He's aging too. And the key moment that everybody waits for is obviously Hotel California. And as far as I know, Joe Walsh still does the lead at the end with that song, and he duels with Stuart Smith like he used to duel with Don Felder. So that's obviously a high moment of any Eagles concert. And people expect that, and they wouldn't notice if suddenly that would be Vince Gill doing it. So I haven't seen Vince Gill do that particular lead in one of the songs, but I did see Vince Gill pick up a lot of leads that Joe used to do. So, and keep in mind here, I mean, I can't play lead guitar. I can't play guitar to start with, but I can strum. I can strum a bit of guitar, but it takes a lot of dexterity, coordination, memory, remember where so it's kind of, you rely on reflex because you do it over and over, and then you know how your fingers, they do it by themselves up until they can't anymore because they don't remember. Your hand doesn't remember, if that makes sense, where to put your fingers. And the main thing is stay focused and practice, and good for Hotel California because that's the big moment of every show. Anyways, that's my little 2 cents on that. And if you want to look into the fact or the theories leading to conclusions that Don is lip syncing, there's this guy, and I don't even know his name, but even if I would, I wouldn't tell you. If you find him, but I don't want to give him the satisfaction of getting more views. And he doesn't do it disrespectfully, but he kind of demonstrate with graphics. You see the sound waves of one time that Don sings Desperado in City A, let's say, and another one in City B, and he puts them one on top of the other, and you could see the wave being exactly the same pattern, same peaks and same lows and everything, the same sequence, the same time. Everything is identical. So to him, that proves that he's using a tape, because the human voice apparently cannot do the same thing exactly the same way twice. So he does this demonstration where he says something like, let's say, I bought 2 bananas today. And then he repeats, I bought 2 bananas today. And it sounds the same, and he says it the same. And then he puts both waves on top of each other, and you can see that they're different. They don't line up exactly like the Desperado did. So he says, well, see, the human voice cannot do it the same way twice, which is normal. So if it's identical and perfectly identical, that proves that he's using tape. So again, to my theory, well, okay, maybe he's using tape for a little part where he hits a certain note. I could see that. Why? Why not? Anyways, I don't want to go on and on and on about that, but that's an important thing. I had to come to the defense of Don Henley because he's such a nice guy. Terrific performer, great voice, great lyricist. He wrote a lot of the good songs of the Eagles. The collaboration between Don and Glenn was phenomenal. And but I think both of them were kind of hard to deal with. Very perfectionists and not too easy to work with, I would think. So anyways, not that Don needs me to defend him, but I do come to his defense here because I would find it normal. So, okay, that's it. I'm not dwelling anymore on that. You can discover it on your own, make your own opinion on it. And if any of you guys go see the Eagles in Vegas, drop me a line on on YouTube. I'd like to hear about you. Or you can write me on an email at ulax@yahoo.com. It's quite simple. And maybe I'll comment about this in further podcasts. So hopefully you enjoyed this particular one on the Eagles. Obviously, the next one will be August 31st. I don't know what the topic will be. Again, if you guys have suggestions, send them to ulax@yahoo.com. Ron Lachance signing off for now, and I'll see you at the end of August. Thanks.